want to talk about the election today and just get into a little bit of some pre-election, um, breakdown of what's going on with the race between, the presidential candidate on the Republican side, Trump, and on the Democrat side, Kamala Harris, and just kind of go over what that looks like at this current state. So right now, I think we're exactly 45 days out, if I'm not mistaken. We are, yep, 45 days out today from the 2024 presidential election, which takes place on November 5th. And it's getting really, uh, intense. Um, at this point now, there's been a debate between Trump and Biden. And since that, Biden dropped out of the race, and then Kamala was just somehow, promoted to the, candidate for the Democrat Party without any, primary election. She was just selected and put in place, which is very anti-democratic. But, for whatever reason, that's how they worked it out, and the Democrat voters seem to be fairly okay with that. But she has since then debated Trump, and you get a lot of mixed things about that. A lot of people say that she won the debate because she got Trump a little flustered at certain times, and a lot of people say that Trump won the debate because he was, answering the questions and speaking the truth, and pretty much being attacked by the two panelists or hosts that were asking the questions. And then it later came out from an insider that they leaked um, the fact that they were working with the Harris campaign to fix the debate that she had against Trump. And this insider actually backed it up by, I believe, um, sending out affidavits the day before the election even happened. So getting it as part of the public record through the mailing system and other things like that, and making it a legal document with an affidavit. They basically put it out there that what was going to happen, that they were going to fix the debate, and that Kamala was given the questions ahead of time, and she was able to prepare for that, and Trump was not included in that process. So, from the viewer's perspective, it definitely appeared to many that something unfair was going on. It looked as though the two hosts were ganging up on Trump, and anytime Kamala said anything that was incorrect, that could be backed up by data, by I mean, we have records of everything, right? The news puts stuff out, the courts put stuff out, the government puts documents out, so we can always go back and look at records and data, which is what I always encourage everyone to do. Never just take anyone's word for it, even a political candidate, no matter who it is, Republican, Democrat, always back up what they say by researching whether or not that's true. And also, don't just rely on fact checkers because they can also be biased, but try to appear as non-biased. Do your own research. Try and find a source of wherever you're getting your information from that doesn't have a political agenda or that is unbiased and will report on both sides fairly, which is getting harder to do today, but there are some. But definitely, back up what you hear with research and facts to prove whether or not that's true. And everybody says things that are untrue sometimes, or slightly embellished, or just omitted certain details, so it's not the whole truth. Um, so, that will happen naturally. We're human beings. We make mistakes and we don't always get everything accurate, but do your best to do your own research. One thing I want to bring up, which is so important, is a lot of times people say, like I just said before, democratic process for the democracy or whatever. Um, America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. So what that basically means is democracy is a little different. Democracy is like the people vote in the politicians, but they vote in all of the, essentially, it's not always, the same in every case, but they vote in all the policies as well. So they basically kind of vote on what they want at that time. America is a constitutional republic, meaning that the Constitution is the law of the land. That document is basically our foundation. It's like the foundation of a house or a building. It's the concrete footprint that holds everything up, keeps it stable, keeps it from collapsing and sinking and falling down. And without that foundation, that building or house or whatever would never be able to stand long term. It would crumble and collapse. So, the Constitution is that to this country. It's the foundation. It holds it. I mean, literally, we call them the founders, the people who wrote it, right? They are the founders. They built the foundation, and it is the document that we should turn to for everything to determine whether or not it's law, whether or not it's, legal and correct, because the Constitution was written and the republic that we have is a structure where the people have all the power. We are in charge, and then we elect politicians to represent us, and then those politicians will implement laws that are hopefully in our best interest. And then if they're not, come the next election, we vote them out and we get somebody else in there that will hopefully do what we demand as the people. And that's really, in a nutshell, the way it works. But essentially, it's the people have all the power, and then next step down from there is the states have the power, which were basically hired on behalf of the people through voting. And then the final tier is the national, which is federal, and the federal government is actually the smallest. They're supposed to be the smallest. They've ballooned up today to where it's just astronomical, and many departments are not even elected officials. They're just hired, and they stay there forever. They have career jobs. The government was never designed to be a career job, to be a career position. You're supposed to go in. That's why we have term limits on basically every position. Not every, but there is that fluctuation that you do need where things are offset. So like you'll have certain elections. That's why we have like midterm elections. You'll have certain elections like the presidential election, and then a lot of the elections that go along with that every 4 years. And then you'll have midterm elections, which is the opposite of that. So like for example, in 2020, the president election was the last one, and the next one's 2024, but we had the midterms in 2022. There's that offset there, which actually is really an intelligent design from the founders to kind of keep everything uneven so that you can't get like a cabal of people who come in and they join forces, they sneak their way into the government, and now they have all the branches in control. They take over and they destroy everything and undo and unravel everything that was set up in the founding of this country. You have that offset. That's why, like, you have a lot of politicians that are in government that are corrupt, and it's clear that they're corrupt. I mean, the corruption is coming out now. It's actually, legally being brought to, justice. It's being brought to the courts, to, the investigators to actually look into this stuff and see, if these crimes are crimes that, we can actually take people out of position, arrest them, charge them, things like that. But that is happening right now in mass. And anyway, a lot of these people are in government and they're corrupt, but it's not like the entire government's corrupt. You have Supreme Court justices that are good, and you have some that are not that good. Some of them that, and when I say not good, I mean they're not actually interpreting the law based on the Constitution. So basically the legislative branch is Congress. They are the ones that write the law, and then the executive branch puts it into play, and the judicial branch are the ones who interpret it, so that we all abide by the same rules of the law based on what Congress has passed. So they all work hand in hand together, but they all are not synonymous. They don't work where like they can um, check each other. That's why we have the checks and balances in government. One branch can say, no, that branch is not doing the right thing. We are not going to, go through with that. The president can get a bill from Congress and say, I veto this. I'm not passing it because it's unconstitutional or whatever. So it really is an intelligent system, and we've never had a system like this in history, as far as we can tell from all of the documents that are out there for ancient civilizations. We've never had a perfectly constructed governmental system where there are all these checks and balances, and you see like there's so much corruption in the government today, but even with all of the power that the corrupt people have gotten, they still have yet to be completely able to take over the government and enslave the American people. We still have, freedom of speech to a certain extent. We still have Second Amendment rights, and there are more guns in America than probably any country ever in like maybe the history of the world. Who knows? Um, but they have not been able to successfully destroy this entire country because of those checks and balances. So we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, and it actually is better that way. It really keeps everybody in check so that no one can come into power and be a dictator, right? That's why there's all this hype around the election, because if it was just a done deal, Hillary Clinton would have won in 2016, right? And don't get me wrong, for a while there definitely was a two-party system, but I think Trump might have changed a lot of that by coming in and reforming the Republican Party. And he's not perfect. So, for people out there who are anti-Trump, whatever, but for people who are pro-Trump, that's fine. Just don't make him your cult leader. Don't make him your God, right? You don't want to ever put any man in that position of power. That seat is reserved for God, okay? So, because I remember, I think back in like maybe 2021 or 22, whatever CPAC year that was, I think they actually made somebody made a gold statue of Trump and brought it, I think, I could be wrong, but introduced it at CPAC. When I saw that, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this should not be happening. You don't want to make a man out to be a god. You don't want to make them out to put them in that high position of power because number one, it affects you negatively. You just violated the rules of God, right? The first commandment is you should not have any other gods before me. So right away, you're immediately violating, God's law and moral code. But on top of that, it's bad for the person that you're worshiping because now they get put on a pedestal. And when you hear that enough from people, you start to think you are a god. You start to think that you are this like, amazing supreme being that is playing at the level of God and that the people are beneath you. You don't want to ever be that way because when you think that you're better than everybody, you develop pride, and pride is a sin. You don't want to ever be in that position. Bear with me, I've been battling a cold for a couple of weeks now, so um, this is why I sound, a little maybe on the sick side. But yeah, you don't want to ever make someone your god. But anyway, the election is getting really interesting. I'm seeing a lot of um, interesting things where, like I said, Biden had one debate with Trump and dropped out. Kamala had one debate with Trump and all this crazy stuff happened. They turns out that they, fixed that debate. Um, and then Peter Thiel came out at some point. I don't really know when, but he said I think he was with a panel on some sort of at some sort of event where he was asked about the presidential election, the race, and he had said that I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. He had said that he does not think the election is going to be close. He thinks that Trump is probably going to win in a landslide, and that if it is close, the Democrats are going to likely work as hard as they can to steal it because, if the margins are close enough, um, it's a lot easier to steal because you only need X amount of votes. It could be 100,000, it could be a million, who knows? But you only need X amount of votes in order to swing the election in the favor of the other person. That's what a lot of people speculated had happened with the 2020 election because of that bump in the middle of the night at like 1, 2, or 3 a.m. Um, there was a spike in the middle of the night where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Biden was down and then he jumped up above Trump and then stayed there and then all of a sudden won the election the next morning, even though the night before, up until, maybe midnight, people had gone to bed knowing and seeing that Trump was way in the lead and he was going to win the election. And it was called by many, many, many states through the news. They would call the states in favor of Trump. He had by far the lead. Um, but we really haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet. I think there are still investigations going on, and we'll see what happens if Trump wins or doesn't win, if that ever gets pursued. But that's up to the politicians to, decide that they want to pursue it. And finally, come clear to the people of what had actually taken place, because it's clear that something went on. I think a lot of people have their ideas as to what they believe went on, but it's clear that something went on, and eventually it should be completely and fully and thoroughly investigated, and then revealed to the American people what had happened. Yeah, Peter Thiel said that he believes that if it's close, they'll steal the election, and if it's not close, Trump's going to win in a landslide. And it's looking likely that that's going to happen from many different factors. Because if you looked at the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton was said to be a dead ringer. She was going to be the winner no matter what, the whole time, like pretty much the entire race against, even back when Trump wasn't the Republican candidate, they were basically propping it up that Hillary was going to be the next president because she was going to be the first female president. And I think she had even said at one point it was like her time or her right to finally be, which last I checked, the people decide that, not the candidate. Um, but it was, basically being sold to the American people through the media and other things that Hillary was going to guarantee to be the winner, because I think the political machine had, you know, had this tried and true system that worked for them, and they believed that, we have this system. It's like a smooth running machine, and it's going to, guarantee Hillary Clinton wins the presidency in 2016. And I think even up until the day of the election or the day before the election, they had her like 90 something percent winning and Trump less than 10, so in single digits. And we all saw how that went. A lot of that might have also been the media trying to spin everybody's minds and say, well, it's a guarantee she's going to win. So there's not even a reason for me to go out and vote because she's a dead ringer. But I think that the entire political and elite, as they call it, um, system was shocked when they saw what happened in 2016, because no one who was in politics, especially in Washington D.C., really expected the machine to lose for a change. And I think she even spent like way more money than him for her campaign. It might have been like $1 billion or something. And Trump only spent maybe a couple hundred million. But and it wasn't even, it was his money and it was, donations from actual voters. Her money came from, big business and, lobbyists and, things like that. And she still lost and he won. And it was really interesting to see that whole shift. I mean, you could see it on all their faces, especially at the inauguration. Like you can see that they were uncomfortable that this event had occurred and that the power was shifting hands to someone who was not part of the team, part of the inside crew. Um, and that was displayed from the moment that Trump got elected. The entire time they tried to take him down, they tried to block him from actually getting inaugurated, if you remember that. And then they tried to, um, basically get him on so many legal issues. They battled him anytime he tried to pass something. They would constantly push back in Congress and try and make it hard for him to get things passed. So, um, obviously that there's good and bad in that, because if somebody gets in that the people are not happy with, you want to be able to rely on the politicians that you voted in to block the things that they're trying to do, because you don't want too much to change in America too fast. You want a balance. You want there to be a politician comes in, he or she or whoever makes some adjustments by, putting through new laws or regulations or whatever, and then there's like a governor on that. There's like a cap on that to where they can't just come in and change everything and do whatever they want, and then leave in 4 years or 8 years, and now the government has to live with all these new policies or work to undo all them for the next 4 years, and then it just delays everything. So the system that we have, the checks and balances, it really is like a slow system. It's very hard for people to just come in and all of a sudden make all these crazy changes. There you are going to be met with that pushback, that resistance from the other branches of government. So that balance is fair on in both ways, for the people coming in who are trying to, make changes in either direction, whether you're Republican or Democrat. It's fair for the people because you're not going to shell shock them with too many changes too fast. Obviously, the Constitution is a living document, and there are supposed to be, changes throughout time, as the environment changes. I mean, we're not doing things the way that we were in the 1700s as much anymore. So we do need new laws and regulations to kind of govern the way that things are done in the modern era today. And there is room for that, but it has to, be backed by the Constitution. It can't contradict it, because then it's null and void. So, it's definitely interesting, but I think it's getting uh, a little concerning in that you see the rhetoric behind the Democrats and the Republicans, and how a lot of people are, saying that Trump was the favorite this whole time. And then as time went on, um, the first assassination attempt, all of a sudden, boom, Trump jumped in the polls and he was in the lead. And then Biden dropped out. And then, Kamala comes in. And then it looked like, maybe she was getting closer because she would be the first female and the first minority female president. And, there was hype around that. But then the debate happened. And then all of a sudden, second assassination attempt on Trump's life too. I mean, this is just incredible because, they say like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Um, you see one isolated incident where somebody tries to assassinate someone and you think, well, it could be an inside job, or it could be, um, just that person really wanted to take action and do something that they thought was justice. But when you see a second attempt, you know that something's wrong. You know that something's not right in the system. And on the first one, there was a huge failure by the Secret Service to protect Trump and thoroughly do their due diligence before the event, and they left him exposed to so many things. The fact that a person was able to get on top of a building right near Trump and be able to get up there with a gun, no less. When people had spotted him, even the police had spotted him, and then he was able to get up there and get in on his sight. Also, there's a counter sniper on Trump's side, and he saw him in his scope, but was told to stand down and not take the shot. So that screams something is wrong here. Either somebody on the inside is involved in this, or somebody on the inside is completely negligent and is not really good at their job. But then how did they get that job? So it opens up a lot of questions. The second time around, the Secret Service admitted they did not check the golf course before Trump went to go play golf. And this man hid in the bush allegedly, and then fired a few shots at Trump while he was on the golf course. So, two times in a row in a very short period of time. One was in July, one was in September. Um, so 3 months apart, basically. the Secret Service failed to do their job, and a president that's or a presidential candidate that's running to be president within 45 days was already assassination attempt on his life was taking place twice. At that point, it should be clear to everybody that something is not right. Um, Someone wants him clearly dead because they do not want him getting elected, and they know that he's the favorite. And whether that's the opposing side or a corporation that's worried about regulations that are going to hurt their business, or a foreign country, whatever it is, whoever it is, it's clear that this is a planned occurrence, that somebody's trying to take him out because they don't want him to win. And they know at this point he's going to win in a landslide unless something happens. Now, by the grace of God, he was spared twice, which tells the people as well, especially if you're a believer, that it's likely that God is with him and protecting him and giving him grace to get through this time to become the president, because that's what God wants. It's not about what Trump wants. It's not about even really what the American people want. It's about what God wants. And if you're a believer, you will lean towards that, because if you see two miracles happen back to back within a matter of a couple of months, something where somebody has a gun with a scope, it's very hard to not hit your target. And even when you hit him, you only hit his ear or whatever. Um, it's that's a miracle, and believers know that. Non-believers, I can understand why you're skeptical about that and don't believe that God has any involvement in this, and that's fine because you don't believe. But for the believers, you know that that's a miracle. The first one was a miracle. The second one, there's no question. God is with this man. He is protecting him and showing him grace because he likely wants him to be the next president of the United States. So I just want to jump over to this clip from the news. It might be Fox, but or a CBS reporter actually, that which is really interesting to me, because you have a CBS reporter that's not part of the conservative side. They're part of the liberal side, where everybody just kind of knows, like, Fox is a conservative network. Maybe not as much anymore, but they were for the longest time. CBS is a liberal network. They just tend to report more bias towards the liberal side. And Fox, same thing with the conservative side. And I'm not saying that that's fair or right either way, but the news is supposed to be completely unbiased, and they're just supposed to report on the news openly and fairly and let the people decide. But this is the way that it is today. So I just want to get into this quickly. This is a CBS reporter that is saying that they went around, did like a man on the street, and tried to find a Harris supporter and could not find one. So let's just take a look at what that looks like here.
Well, despite the polls showing a razor-thin race, especially in the swing states, a CBS reporter is revealing just how difficult it was to find Kamala Harris supporters in the swing state of Nevada.
Do you always get together and talk politics?
We do.
Yes. So it's our lucky day. We found the right table today. What issue is most important to you?
I'm extremely concerned about the border.
Illegals, they gotta go.
People are coming here seeking asylum.
Baloney. They're coming here for the freebies.
I took my brisket and mac and cheese with me to catch Ken Lasker with the to-go order.
How closely are you watching this election?
Oh, very closely.
He was the only Harris supporter we met at lunch, even though Washoe County has historically been pretty politically split.
We had so much fun. But what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant. And we left no stone unturned. I approached every single person.
That's because Republicans love good.
So I think she was probably about to say Republicans love good food. All right, so let's get back out of here. Yeah, so that was just a quick clip, but it's very telling because, like I said, in 2016, they had Hillary winning. She was the favorite. She was up 90+%, and Trump was in the single digits, and Trump won. Then they had, it was pretty clear that Trump was going to win the 2020 election, and then all of a sudden, Biden won. Now you have The polls, especially some of the top ones, like I believe Pew Research is saying, and we could actually take a look at this right now. So you actually have right here, this is Pew Research. If you don't know, Pew Research is one of the top polling data companies, and they're saying it's within 45 days of the election, uh, Harris and Trump are allegedly tied. And this was conducted on August 26th and through September 2nd. Okay, so we're in the middle of September right now. This is just recently. It might have, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was before the second assassination attempt. So I think he did jump up a little bit since then. So he might be in the lead. But either way, they have them tied, right? So you go back to the 20, um, you go back to the 2016 election, we saw how that turned out. The 2020 election, we saw how that turned out. Now, this election, you have it tied, okay, which is telling because if it's tied, why is a liberal news reporter going out there and saying, we cannot find a Harris supporter? I literally went to multiple restaurants in an area that's supposed to be politically split, like around 50-50 of Republicans and Democrats. And you saw who she spoke to. It wasn't just like a certain demographic of people or a certain gender of people. It was a little bit of everybody. And she went to a community that was politically split and spoke to all different types of people and found one Harris supporter. And she said, I left no stone unturned. She went there and spoke to so many people. Now, this could just be an anomaly for that location. So I'm not saying this is hard evidence, but it is enough to see if there's a pattern, right? This is what, people who do research things will do. They'll look at an event and they'll see whether or not it's isolated or if it's a pattern. And they may start at this one location and say, wow, we only found one Harris supporter, and then go to other locations and see how that correlates with each other, right? Does it line up? Is it pretty much the same thing nationally across the board, or is that just that isolated area and then the other areas are not like that? So I don't really know how that looks from a national standpoint. But what I will say is you have a liberal reporter that's going out and trying and actually actively trying to work hard and find out where are people voting, and they only found one Harris supporter. And the fact that they actually admitted this on their channel is really interesting because the media tends to be pretty biased against Trump and for the Democrat Party, especially the liberal media stations like CBS, ABC, and things like that. But they were, you know, uh, actually admitting the truth for a change, which was nice to see because that's the way the media should be. You just report on the news, let the chips fall where they may. Um, so you have that, and then you have people trying to assassinate Trump, whoever they are. Now, if you think somebody's not going to win, or you think that it could be close, um, you're probably just going to, let's just say hypothetically, they're corrupt and they're going to steal the election. If you think that your opposing side is going to probably be like neck and neck with you, you're probably just going to try and steal the election like you may have possibly done in the past, or this could be the first time doing it. But you're probably just going to try and steal the election because you don't want too much heat and attention around you. You just want the people to accept the fact that, okay, they were close and then this one won, no problem. And the people who lost will be mad and the people who won will be happy, and life goes on. But when you're actively seeing a presidential candidate being assassination attempts made on their life, not once, but twice, and we still have 45 days to the election, there could be a third one, and hopefully none of them are successful. But when you see this happening, it tells you you're not going to risk murder because murder is very hard to get away with. Number one, it's getting easier and easier to find people who murder people with DNA evidence, cameras everywhere in America, phones constantly in everybody's hands. There's always a camera around or a microphone. Just assume you're always being surveilled by someone. The NSA was proven that they spy on everybody anyway years ago with Edward Snowden. And then on top of that, Murder is like the only crime where there is no statute of limitations for. If you commit a murder 50 years ago, you can get arrested for it today and go to jail for it and spend life in prison, the rest of your life in prison for a crime you committed 50 years ago, because murder doesn't have a statute of limitations. If you kill somebody and they find you, that's it. It's over for you. So not a lot of people would risk that unless everything is on the line and they are petrified that that person is clearly going to win. That's just my take on it from observing things from a bigger picture. But I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. If you agree, disagree, or if you have another opinion, I'd love to hear what you have to say. But it is very telling that um somebody is petrified that this man, Trump, is going to win this year in 24, the election. And, whatever that leads to, that they're trying to kill him on multiple occasions. And, it's very suspect too, because they did confirm that both shooters from two different events completely in two different locations, one was in Florida, one was in Pennsylvania, might not have even known each other, but they were both in the same BlackRock ad from the company BlackRock, an advertisement they were in, and it's on video. You can see it. That's very concerning because anomalies like that don't happen, right? There are such things as coincidences once in a while in life, but they're not really coincidences. We just don't know how those things line up. But to see two people who were involved in the same type of event, which is, think about how many people have tried to assassinate a president out of all the people who have lived in the history of America. The number is a handful out of hundreds of millions of Americans who have lived in this country since its foundation in 1776 and even before that, when the Puritans came here. But essentially the first president was George Washington. So from that time on to now, how many people have tried to assassinate a president out of the amount of people who have been Americans and lived here since George Washington was president? The number is so small and rare. It's like unbelievable that two people can be connected through the same company having done the same crime, attempted murder, on the same person. That is not even possible to be a coincidence. Something is there. There's a connection there. And a court of law would make that connection. Let's say the FBI was investigating this. They would immediately see those two in the same ad and they would say, there's something here. We need to go to BlackRock. We need to go and trace down where these connections come from, how these two people ended up trying to commit the same crime on the same person. Something is there. It's not even up for debate. And an investigator that's good at his job would actually look at that and try and get to the bottom of it. But anyway, it's really interesting. Things are heating up. I'd love to know what you think about the presidential election and if you think Trump's going to win, if you think Kamala's going to win. I'm going to try and do a poll on this on YouTube, I think, and maybe Instagram as well. But I'd love to know what you think about this election and what you see happening compared to 2016, 2020. Are the polls accurate? Are they saying, neck and neck because it actually is tied or close to it, maybe 51-49, things like that? Or are they, again, trying to deceive the American people with the, incorrect polling data, and try and throw them off the trail that Trump may possibly be on his way to the biggest landslide in American history in terms of the presidential election? Or is it going to go a different way? Is Kamala going to win? Is any one of those two parties going to try and steal the election? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear your take on it. But something is clear. Something is going on. Somebody does not want Trump to be president, and somebody is scared that he's very close to winning because he is likely in a much bigger lead than they're telling the people, especially when you back that research data up with man on the street content like the news did and go out there and say, okay, the data is saying it's about 50-50 split. Let's go out and see what the people actually say. And it really ends up being 90-10 or even 99-1. that doesn't correlate. It's one thing to go and see the polls are 50-50, and then you get out there and they're 60-40 in person. Okay, well, maybe they're off a little bit because maybe they're not getting enough people to get involved in the polls, or the people are saying one thing on the polls than they're saying in person. But when it's that big of a margin of error, where it's like one out of every several hundred people she spoke to, so it's probably somewhere higher than 99.1, but it's like 99% to 1% in favor of Trump for over Kamala. Um, Something is not adding up there. So 49-49, and then the 2% difference for the I don't knows or independents. Something's not adding up there. All right, so that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Definitely check out some of my other videos on the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff that everybody always tells everybody to do. It does, help the channel, and it does allow me to continue to make content, and also to, see what type of content you want to hear, and the type of videos you want me to create on here. But definitely, comment in the comment section what you think about the video and what your predictions are for the 2024 election that's coming up in 45 days. So we're getting really close here. I may do a couple more videos before then about this, but definitely let me know what you think. And that's it for this video. All right, everybody, don't forget to check out my children's book, Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. So I wrote this book for my son. It's a great book. It's a children's book, and it's actually available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, a lot of online platforms. But more importantly, I think it's actually available in a lot of physical bookstores throughout the country. We're in about 15 or 16 different states right now, and you can actually find out which bookstores are local to you. On my Instagram page, you right there, you'll see the store name, the location, the state, everything, where the book it currently is, and you can see which ones are closest to you, so you can actually go buy the book in store. We highly recommend you buy it from the bookstores. We want to support local businesses. We love local businesses. They are and have always been the backbone of America, and it actually helps to keep the nation freer as well, because you don't have as many big business conglomerates taking over everything and wielding their power over everyone. You support local businesses, and it keeps the country a lot freer. Also, you'd be surprised how many bookstores there are still standing after, the internet age and Barnes & Noble and a lot of these big conglomerates took over that industry. There's still a lot of great small bookstores around. So definitely check the book out at one near you. But if you don't want to buy it from a bookstore, or one of the ones that it's in is not near you, you can go to our Amazon storefront and buy it from there. It's available in the book category, and there's a lot of categories on there with all different types of products that we personally use in our daily lives, and highly recommend. That's why they're on the storefront. If there's something that we don't like or wouldn't recommend, we won't put it in there. So everything in there, you can trust the stuff that we actually use and like. And yeah, check out the storefront, check out the apparel shop. All that stuff is going to be in the show notes and links in my bio. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff that everybody always says. It helps the channel, and we'll stay tuned for the next one.